Hi, I want to go over 3-1, graphing linear equations. You've got my notes. I just kind of want to highlight some things and give you a couple of extra examples. Now, it really starts before in the purple pages where they talk about, have some graphing activities. And that's that idea that they talk about increasing functions, decreasing functions, that constant function, and that your vertical line, which is not a function. Okay, so those all have to deal with slope. They have to deal with the fact that, hey, we've kind of talked about some of this stuff before. They get into identifying linear equations before they get into graphing because, sometimes you might think, well, it's got an x and a y. Is it a line? Well, sometimes it's a curve, and we just want to deal with the lines. So anything that can be written in standard form, ax plus by equals c, is a line. Okay, so example 1 talks about y equals 4 minus 3x. Well, that's not standard form, but I could change it and manipulate it to get it into standard form. I just have got to move this over here by addition. Now, some people want to write, well, yeah, I'm adding 3x. Is y plus 3x standard form? No, because the x has got to go first. 3x plus y equals 4 is standard form. Now, in example B, 6x minus the product of x and y equals 4 is not a line because it's got an x times y. Okay, so anytime you've got that multiplication, it's not a line, it's a curve. It'll give you a curve. You can graph it, but you'd have to do some manipulating of that equation first. Okay, guided practice 1b, y equals x squared minus 4. Because it's got a power, it's not a line, it's a curve. Okay, so anything that can be written with an x plus y, except remember, if a is 0, there's no x. Okay, if b is 0, there's no y. So I can have that constant function or that vertical line. Vertical line is not a function, but it is a line. Okay, now I've got an extra example because sometimes you might look at it and get confused. Well, it's got to be integers, right? It's got to be integers. You can't have fractions. Well, that doesn't mean it's not a line, and that doesn't mean it's not linear. It just means that, hey, I've got to do some math. I've got to clear that fraction. Well, hopefully you remember that to clear a fraction, you multiply by whatever the denominator is. So when I multiply by 4, and I multiply all of this by 4, because you got to do the same thing on both sides, that gives you 3x equals 4y plus 32. Now, is that standard form? No, because I got to move this over here. So I'm going to end up with 3x minus 4y equals 32. And some people whine and complain, oh, but it's got a minus. Well, you can always change minus to plus and negative. Okay? Now, graphing lines, what's important is if it's in standard form, oftentimes you can use intercepts. Okay? I would look at this and I would say, ooh, first of all, I'd look at it and say, ooh, that's not in simplest form. I want to divide everything by 2, okay? Because that's really technically not standard form. Dividing everything by 2 gives me smaller numbers. So that gives me x plus 2y equals 8. And that is standard form. And the easiest way to graph it is say, oh, well, what happens when x is 0 and what happens when y is 0? Those are my intercepts. If x is 0, y equals 4. If y is 0, x equals 8. Those are the only 2 points I need to graph my line. So y is 4, x is 8. Any straight edge will draw you a good line. Okay? And there's my line, okay? And the reason I say use intercepts is because those are the only points I'm going to check to see if you did it right. Sometimes. If they're really close here, I might look out a little farther. All right. Let's try another one. Standard form, 2x minus 5y equals 10. Again, it's standard form. They're nice numbers. So I'm just thinking, what happens when x is 0? What happens when y is 0? Well, when x is 0, y is negative 2, because I need negative 5 times negative 2 to get a positive 10. If y is 0, then x is going to be 5. So that gives me a negative 2 on my y-axis, a 5 on my x-axis. And then I draw my line. Okay? And you should try and make your line go all the way across the graph. Now, I got these graphs at mathbits.com. Scroll down to where it says free graph paper, and they're already numbered. I just cut a bunch out and keep them in a stack and use them as I need them. In example 5, they made a table. Now, you might not make a table. You might use your graphing calculator and use that second table, because remember we talked about that above the word graph is table, and it'll give you a table of ordered pairs. Pick the nice ones. That's why they chose multiples of 3, because 1/3 times negative 3 is negative 1. Okay, so pick the nice ones. Negative 3, 1, 0, 2, 3, 3, 6, 4. 3 or 4 points is going to give you a good line. Okay? The more points you have, the better your line is. All right? That's a good review of 3-1. We'll talk about it more later. Bye.